No, we can hear you, but it
We can
says you're
hear you.
muted. So we'll have
We're
to
good.
make sure that Margaret takes care of that.
So
Yeah,
can you hear
I
me
can hear
now?
you, but it says that you're muted, so that means the public can't hear you. Yeah,
Oh,
there, you're good now. Okay, you're good.
okay.
All right, now
Oh, you gentlemen.
we're great. It's good to see you again. Well, it's been a while now, huh?
Yeah, I missed the last two, I think.
But you look fit. You look younger.
Nothing like a tie and a couple drinks.
Yeah, and Joseph is looking fit now too. He's not so ridiculously bulky.
He
What's
is
going
looking
on?
lean.
Are
Looking
you what's with
lean.
this lean
Yeah.
look? The lean Joseph.
I mean, you can say I'm lean and mean. You could just say that I'm getting old and, I'm just beginning to shrivel and shrink and fade away. I mean, that's the
Oh,
other way of
that's what it
looking
is.
at it.
Okay,
There's
good,
that
good.
too.
Well, they're
There's that
very,
too.
very good. So you're just shriveling and shrinking
It's
away.
difficult to keep the muscle mass up when your joints start to complain. You try to push the heavy
Mm.
weights. It's like
Yeah,
I'm doing lighter weights, more reps, lighter weights. So it's a whole different regimen. I'm sure that's unbulking me, which is probably just as well, quite frankly, at my age.
As long as you have energy, who cares?
Yeah, I
yeah,
agree. I have plenty of that, thankfully.
There you go.
tell me,
Cheers.
what is energy? Here's,
It comes in a glass.
well, well, here's to energy. All right.
Cheers.
I think Christopher's going to be late, according to Joseph. Christopher's going to be late.
What was his excuse?
I think some radio fundraising drive or
Oh,
something. He
right.
said he might be a few. He said a few minutes late. I don't think he's going to be very late.
All right, we'll
But
try to
anyway,
we'll
And
try to keep.
Daniel's watching a play,
Yeah, Daniel had to
the
go to a
boys'
play
play.
based on the Song of Roland.
That sounds pretty awesome, actually.
Our senior play was completed last weekend. We did As You Like It, and they did a great job. They were absolutely spectacular. It was a marvelous play. My wife,
are you still doing Shakespeare every year?
yeah, every year the seniors put on a Shakespeare play, and yeah, As You Like It.
Doing of the Shrew, I saw a dress rehearsal playing of the Shrew when I was last at your school there.
I'm
Great
so
fun.
glad you saw that. They did great on that too. So well, as long as we're just the three of us, because Christopher's not going to add anything. What are we drinking this evening, gentlemen?
Why is Christopher not going to add anything? We can ask him. We can
He'll
ask
come
him what
with
he
a
had
he'll
to drink.
he'll pour a glass of seltzer water or something. So I'm
Oh
I'm
dear, yeah.
already not impressed with whatever it is he's drinking. So tell me what you're having.
There we
Oh,
go.
that's a shocker. What an
Yeah.
absolute
Well,
shock.
I don't have the bottle, at least not up here, but in honor of William Fahey, I am also drinking Old Grandad. So
Oh, you
because
guys, a couple
I want to be William Fahey when I grow up. So I'm just
the
sort of following in his footsteps.
Twin Towers. I'm drinking something from my again the vineyard next door to my friends the Roundtrees out in Placerville, California, near Sacramento. This is from that uh, it's their El Dorado
Land.
estate. It's called Tiger Lily, but it's a sub grape called Outlaw, and it's a reserve. And I've never had this wine before. Tonight's the first night I've
Is it
tasted
good?
it. Yeah, it's really good. So
Give us some tasting notes.
I'm going to. It's there's only 5 barrels of it produced. A beautiful deep ruby color is the first thing you notice about this Syrah based blend. Violets, blackberry, plum, black olive. Now I cannot taste any black olive. Black,
Mm.
blueberry pie and hints of smoked meat can all be found in this very complex, deep wine, nicely balanced on the palate with a lingering finish. Very approachable while young. It has great tannin structure that should keep it enjoyable for years to come. This is a 2020, so I'm drinking a 5-year old
Oh,
bottle of wine, so that's pretty good.
that
And
sounds
It's
tasty.
funny.
what
It's
was
funny, because you look at a tasting notes, you think about it, right? someone were to serve you up smoked meat in a blueberry pie, right? You wouldn't be that impressed, would you?
Oh, I don't know. Not until you've tried it.
Yeah, that's true. That's
All
true.
right. Well,
I was
okay.
worried when you said it was from your neighbors. I thought you were going to say it was from Thief River Falls or someplace like
Yeah,
that.
no, Thief River Falls is kind of far away to be my neighbors. That's about a
Well,
8 hour drive.
it's no further than where that wine's from. Those aren't your
Well,
neighbors.
yeah, the wine is from Northern California, and
Yeah.
it's from that kind of a really niche neighborhood of just immediately west of the Sierra Nevada mountains. So not the typical wine region of
Right.
California.
Is
It's
that the
that
one we went
soil
with
that gives it
you?
a blueberry bacon taste.
That's where you get the blueberry bacon.
Yeah. We only have that on
Yeah.
Dunkin' Donuts glazed frosting out here.
Sure, and that's kind of the
That's what they're going after.
the poor man's equivalent is to
Yeah.
have bacon on a maple glazed donuts, which is great. I'm not going to knock that. What do you say, Joseph?
Only, I'm really going to say only in America. And I'll rest my case. Is it the winery that we went to?
Yes, it is the winery we went to with the
Oh,
round trees. Yep, absolutely.
that's very, very good. That's a great winery.
Yeah, it's called the Sierra Vista Winery, next to
I remember it well.
Ann and
Great
Spencer
fun.
Roundtree. Well, okay, we're going to begin. Greetings, everyone. We have our friend Christopher Check of the Troubadours will be joining us presently, soon, we believe. Whereas Dan Kerr is not going to be here at all. The excuse he has given, which we have allowed in this case, is that he's attending the only performance of his school's final play, which is a play based on the Song of Roland. And we actually all wish we were there attending the play with him. But since we cannot, we're going to be here with you because this is an important evening tonight. Some of you may know that we recently had a new pope elected. And for those of you who don't, we do. And his name is Leo the 14th, which we're going to talk about the significance of that. But to start us off, the three of us are here. I'm Dale Ahlquist of the Society of G.K. Chesterton. We have William Fahey, president of the college, the Thomas More College of the Liberal Arts, and Joseph Pierce, famous and prolific author, fresh from Australia. He's just spent a 10-day tour in Australia. If he sounds a little upside down, like William looks, that's the situation we're going to be dealing with this evening. I'm a little concerned, and I'm not going to lie. But he is here. Oh, wait. I feel as if Christopher Check is about to join us. I sense there he is. Chris, welcome.
Yeah, that worked.
Oh, that's great. I was just introducing everybody.
Oops.
And I said that you were about to join us, and here you are.
Yep.
Good to see you.
It's good to see you, brothers.
I was just telling our folks, our faithful viewers and friends of the Troubadours, that for those who haven't heard, we just recently inaugurated a new pope, a new Holy Father, Bishop of Rome, as it were, Holy Pontiff, Shoes of the Fisherman, Bark of St. Peter, Bow Wow, Woof Woof. And so we're going to be talking about popes in general this evening, but also one pope in particular, the new one. And we just had a deluge of requests from the faithful. What do the Troubadours think about the new pope? And so we're gonna share our wisdom tonight and give that to you.
Describe this deluge.
Why should I do that, Christopher? I was making that part up. Why would I describe it?
All right.
What?
You ruined his poetic flow.
Deluge and troubadour viewers are not two words that you know.
Well, unless we're exaggerating, Christopher, unless we're using artistic license.
Hyperbole. Jesus used hyperbole.
Yes, he did. And I was being very Christ-like when I said deluge.
Yes.
All
Yes.
right,
And I was
so-
not being Christ-like when I questioned your use of deluge.
That I will accept that. That was not Christ-like at all. But you are Christ-like in that your name is itself is Christ-like, the one
It
who
is.
carries Christ. Yeah.
Christ bearer.
Yeah. So you have that going for you.
There's never been a Pope Christopher.
No, there
I
hasn't
tell you
been.
what, Dad, if I could just say, as regards your reference to Christopher's name as being Christ-like, I would have to agree with you and say Christopher, check. Sorry.
that's so good. Oh, that's so
dear.
good.
Sorry.
You've been saving that one up, haven't you, Joseph? I've been waiting Yep,
for years for
the
the
whole
opportunity.
plane trip
Yeah,
back. You had 27 hours to
Absolutely.
prepare that.
27 hours.
absolutely.
I have your new book here, Dale.
Oh, they sent it to you.
Yes.
Couldn't
Well,
they afford a
asked me to-
cover?
They asked me to blurb it. Have we done this
Yeah.
before? I don't know. Whenever Eva Muntian,
Montaigne, I don't know.
yeah, she's lovely.
Great.
She says,
She's
"Will you
fun.
blurb something?" And then she sends me the PDF, and I say, "I'm that one guy who is not going to read it on a screen." And then I say, "Send me a review copy." There's no such thing as
No
review
such thing
copies.
anymore.
No, not anymore. Although
So
I
Dale-
read one,
Dale?
I have a review copy I'm reading. It's in the other room
Yeah.
from another publisher.
I've got one-upmanship on Chris. I've already endorsed your book because I
Oh.
didn't need to read it.
You didn't even read it. I read it. Yeah.
All right. So Christopher Check has made reference to a book that that I've written is coming out, and he's going to be writing a blurb for it. Joseph, who, without bothering to read it, has already written a blurb, and I'm sure that whatever Joseph says is completely reliable. He's been.
It's a biography of G.K. Chesterton.
What?
It's a biography of G.K. Chesterton.
I don't think so.
Go on with that.
Maybe you better read that subtitle again, because
It
I don't
says
think
Autobiography.
An alternative autobiography.
an alternative autobiography.
What?
So Dale, may I just make a point here that
Please.
I know the book better than he does without reading it. Haven't even read it, and I'm correcting him. You know.
Yeah, I know, that's beautiful. It shows your mastery of me. Yeah.
What's this book about, Dale?
So tonight our subject is the popes.
I know, but
And
if
we're gonna
you're
be
not
talking
aware,
about
I have
the
not
popes. We're not gonna
prepared
be
for
talking
tonight,
about-
so I was hoping to delay
You know a
Like
few
what?
things about popes.
a couple.
All right. No, we should talk about the popes tonight. We have really a great panel this evening. We've got, Christopher Check is a great historian. He gives marvelous talks on history. He knows a lot about popes throughout history. He's also the president of Catholic Answers, and he's had to answer a lot of questions the last few years about popes. I'm not going to lie. He's had to answer a lot of questions. William Fahey, of course, is someone who speaks the language that popes have spoken throughout most of their. Oh, there it is, Song of Roland. Dan is giving us a little glimpse of what we're missing tonight at St. Martin's Academy in Fort Scott. And all of you are missing that, unless you're already watching it instead of watching this right now. And of course, Joseph Pierce, master biographer, he knows something about popes too. In fact, unlike the rest of us, he's lived in two countries, both of which have had a pope, whereas the rest of us have only lived in one country that's had a pope. Joseph has lived in two countries, each of which has had one pope. Nicholas Breakspere, the English pope. Yeah.
Adrian IV, I believe.
Pope Adrian IV, a clearer hue is begging to be written about Nicholas Breakspere. And I can't think of a word that rhymes with Breakspear right now, but I'm sure
Yeah.
given time I could think of one. So
whatever it takes here, I would say.
yeah. So what I'm going to do tonight, I'm going to do something different from our other celebrity MCs. I'm going to ask for a volunteer to begin tonight. If I don't hear an answer within 5 seconds, I will appoint the first participant. So who would like to begin tonight, gentlemen?
I'll be happy to go first.
Great, Christopher. I was hoping you'd say yes. Great.
Yeah. Especially because I didn't prepare at all, and that means I don't have to go on for very long. My favorite line about popes came from my old friend Tom Fleming, whom all of you know.
God bless him.
Tom just turned 80.
Wow.
And he went to Bologna with his lovely wife, Gail, to celebrate his 80th birthday. Tom, I had the privilege to sponsor Tom when he came into the Catholic Church. I obviously didn't have anything to do with it. The man was brilliant and figured it out on his own, but somebody needed to be there to put his hand on his shoulder at his confirmation. But I remember talking to Tom before he became a Catholic and talking about popes, and he said, you know, the problem with you Catholics is you take popes too seriously. I think there's a great deal of wisdom in that. And especially in our age where in the age of the media, and even going back to, well, say John Paul II especially, who had so much coverage in the media, but even some of the earlier Piuses with the radio broadcasts and whatnot. Popes have been exposed to us in a way that historically they were not to the faithful. There's a wonderful story about Junipero Serra that if I had prepared, I would get exactly right, but something to the effect that he is waiting for the authority from Rome to give confirmations here in California. And there's a bit of an interregnum, I think, at the time or something. And the Pope has just been appointed or elected. And in Sarah's correspondence, he's asking, who is the Pope anyway? So the whole business of the evangelization of the Golden State was going on. The work of a man, a small, determined, and very holy man who loved the natives here, completely unaware of who the Pope was or what he thought. And I think a little bit of that is healthy and maybe something we all should make an effort to cultivate. So that's my first point. Take popes as seriously as they should be taken, right? The second is a little bit of a reflection on the name Leo. There have been some extraordinary Leos. Leo the First, of course, is the Pope who stands down Attila, or if you're a cynic, paid him off. But I like the image there that it's the Raphael where Leo is on his horse and Peter and Paul are appearing in the sky with their swords and everything. And it's not a real photograph because Leo's wearing the tiara and it wasn't in use at that time. So, but nonetheless, but Leo also was critical in sorting through the Christological heresies that come to a head at Chalcedon. And also at Chalcedon, the questions of the relationship between grace and nature. But it's Chalcedon is one of those moments in history that here at Catholic Answers and other apologists, I certainly didn't come up with myself, point to as an occasion where it's the Pope's emissaries who are making clear what the will of the Roman pontiff is on these various questions, Leo's tome, etc. So as early as Chalcedon, well, and of course earlier, there are earlier examples, but that's a big one where bishops meeting in the East are interested what the Pope in the West has to say. Leo III is the Leo who crowned Charlemagne on Christmas Day, 800 AD. And those of you who visited St. Peter's have seen that porphyry disc near at the end of the nave, or the beginning of the nave, I guess, from that porphyry disc preserved from the old Constantinian basilica on which Charlemagne knelt when he was crowned. And then his successor, Leo IV, is the man for whom the wall around Rome is built. Not Rome, the Vatican, the Leonine Wall, which Pope Francis did not take down, by the way. I'm sorry if that was in poor taste. But he built it to keep the Saracens out. That's why he built it, and it's still largely standing. But Chesterton enthusiasts will be interested to know also Leo IV is the Pope who confirmed Alfred the Great of White Horse fame. So, and that's a great story when he's a young boy and his dad takes him to. Now there is a Leo in the sequence who kind of made a pig's breakfast of things. He's Leo X, the Medici Pope. If you go to Rome, when you go to Rome, you go to Santa Maria sopra Minerva, one of my very favorite churches in the world. Catherine of Siena is buried in the high altar. People call it Rome's only Gothic church. It's not really a Gothic church. It has vaults in the ceiling. That's why they call it Gothic. But in any case, it was a church that was funded by the Medici. So the two Medici popes there, Clement and Leo, are buried in the sanctuary on either wall, on opposite sides of the high altar, and it's striking because Clement is the guy who makes a pig's breakfast of Henry VIII. He just delays too long. And then Leo X, who doesn't take too seriously this German monk. And what does he say? Something like, you all know the story better than I do. This is kind of a quarrel among monks. It's going to go away. As it turned out, it didn't go away. And that whole question of justification by faith, it's one that we deal with on a daily basis here at Catholic Answers. And then Leo the 13th, of course, who's a favorite of everybody on this call. Or on this podcast, or what do we call this? A webinar? What do we program?
We call it the Troubadours, Chris.
The Troubadours, yes. I always go see him when I'm in Rome. He is at I don't know why his cause hasn't been opened. It should have been opened ages ago.
I'll talk about that when it's my turn.
Okay, good. He is his tomb is over the door to the sacristy at the Lateran, at John Lateran. I always go and say hello to him. He's very, very dear to me. And he wrote a superabundance of encyclicals. It's something like in the 90s, I think. And I don't think anybody has surpassed him in this regard. They're wonderful and too many to recommend, but I recommend you read his one on Christopher Columbus. It's explicit in his enthusiasm for what Christopher Columbus did. And Leo uses language that would be regarded as politically incorrect today when he describes how Columbus brought the new world out of the darkness of out of heathen darkness. He wrote the brilliant encyclical on Americanism, which needs to be dusted off. About once a year here in the United States, so people can understand that we cannot so easily square, as some of these Irish bishops attempted to do, the extreme ideas of individualism that came out of the Enlightenment with the teachings of the Roman Catholic Church, and of course, and I'm sure one of you will talk about Rerum Novarum. And it gives me a lot of happiness and excitement to have Leo XIV compare himself with Leo XIII, saying he hopes to address the technological revolution. And in this way, I will say this, since I made a little slight remark about Francis, I'll make amends by saying, in this sense, I think he very much will be a worthy successor of Pope Francis, because Francis is I think the great, even if it's not always very articulately set down, the great contribution of his papacy is his work in what he called, the technocratic paradigm, and how we are all slaves to its own internal logic. And I look forward to seeing how Leo XIV treats this question, not just of AI, which is part of it, but the whole broader mess of, well, what I called e-slavery at a Chesterton conference, I think 2 decades ago. But fun anecdote, and then I'll be done, about Leo XIII. Leo XIII was an enthusiast for a product called Vin Mariani. And Vin Mariani was a wine, I think actually made by a Frenchman living in Corsica, but you'll have to look it up and see if I'm right. Mr. Mariani. And I know it sounds like an Italian name, but I think he was a Frenchman. And this was a red wine in which also were soaked cocoa leaves. And it has been explained to me that the ethanol in the wine extracted what we would today refer to as cocaine from the cocoa leaves, giving this wine a particular medicinal quality. And Leo benefited immensely from it in that he wrote well over 90 encyclicals. He's an extraordinary, prolific man. So much so that he issued a papal medal. Look it up, my friends, to Mr. Mariani, praising him for his work. And he even gave an endorsement for a newspaper advertisement for Vin Mariani. Now, before you're scandalized, pretty much everybody, the cocaine did not carry with it the stigma that it does today. Queen Victoria and others were active partakers in this tonic. So there you have an accounting for Leo's. Maybe that's why his cause hasn't been open. I hope not.
Well, that might be one. Thank you, Christopher. That was a perfect introduction tonight. Thank you. Excellent job. I was off camera for a couple of weeks. I have a copy of a book of all of Leo XIII's encyclicals, and I just can't find it. I don't know. It should be right there, but I'll probably find it right after our podcast is over, our Troubadours is over. But yeah, they're marvelous encyclicals. They're worth reading now, as timely as ever.
On the Rosary, on the Blessed Sacrament, and clear prose, my friends.
Yeah, great stuff. So Rerum Novarum. I mean, I will volunteer to go next, by the way, so that the other two guys will be able to duke it out as to who goes after me. The fact that our new Pope chose the name Leo, I just want to follow on what Christopher was saying. He specifically mentions Rerum Novarum. That he's explicit on that's why he's chosen the name Leo. And I mean, nothing could have given me greater comfort than hearing that, because if there was ever a defender of Leo XIII in the 20th century, it was G.K. Chesterton. Chesterton and Belloc derive all of their inspiration for their political social philosophy known as distributism from Rerum Novarum, all of which was affirmed by Pope Pius XI, whom Chesterton met personally in his 40-year encyclical after Rerum Novarum, come on, say it for me, William.
Quadragesimo Annum.
Thank you. Yeah, can't say it. I've tried for years. Anno. All right.
Chesterton was still alive?
Yeah, for
Yeah,
that encyclical. Yeah, that was 1931.
1931. 1931, the encyclical. So yes.
Yeah. And in fact, he met Pope Leo in 1929. Pope Pius XI in 1929 on the occasion of the canonization of the English martyrs. Yeah. So so we have this. Our new Holy Father has chosen the name Leo. It's gigantic. It's absolutely gigantic, I think. Pope Leo the 13th. A few other things about him. He had the vision of the 20th century, of how bad it was going to be. He saw really everything that was going to happen. He was granted a vision. And that's why he wrote the St. Michael prayer. And that's the prayer that we need to pray every day. St. Pope Leo the 13th gave us that prayer. And you could actually, by the way, on YouTube, you can find videos of Pope Leo the 13th moving and talking. And according to YouTube, it's the oldest born person who's ever been recorded on film, because he was born in 1810. And you can see him moving and talking. You get just a little sense of his personality, that he was definitely fun-loving. He was a showman, and and obviously very connectable. His encyclicals demonstrate that. When Chesterton visited Pope Leo's tomb at the Lateran in Rome, it was one of the most moving experiences of his life, because Pope Leo was definitely a hero to him. He was the Pope that moved Chesterton the most, and it was particularly fitting because on the opposite side of the altar from Pope Leo's tomb is the tomb of Pope Innocent III, who, of course, approved the Franciscan order, and so it was Pope Leo the 13th that commissioned that tomb to be built for Pope Innocent III.
Did not know that.
Yeah, that was kind of cool. And so, but the reason why Pope Leo the 13th has not been canonized. This is the inside dope that I got from a priest in Rome
Who knew him?
He fathered a child when he was a younger man as a priest. And I think that's
what's the issue?
Yeah, exactly. There's a certain saint that whose order our present Pope belongs to, Saint Augustine, who also fathered a child. And I don't know that should count against sainthood. I think that should be something that King David, who was the ancestor of our Lord, who also fathered a child out of wedlock. And it's interesting. Pope Leo could be one of the most human of all the popes. I think the more his life is going to be examined, I think he's someone who should be up for canonization. He really is one of the great popes of the last 200 years. There's no question. And the fact that our present pope has taken that name, I think, will only add to his stature. The fact that he's the founder in all respects of Catholic social teaching, the inspiration for distributism, which we now call localism, is vitally important. Catholic social teaching is finally getting the attention it deserves. People had written off distributism for a long time, and now people are paying attention to it, serious attention to it. Our book Localism has gotten a lot of great exposure, and so these ideas were just absolutely dismissed a few years ago, and now they're being taken seriously because people are realizing there has to be an alternative to the two alternatives we've been given of big money capitalism and socialism/communism. And so I think we have a pope who could help really bring that to prominence, and let's pray that he does.
Yeah.
I can. I'm going to just say a couple more things about popes about this pope, and then about another pope.
When you're done, I have a question for you, Dale.
Yeah, good. Um, this pope, when he was Father Bob, spent 3 months in Minnesota as a hospital chaplain at the hospital where 4 of my children were born. He was a chaplain there before they were born, but he was there. He was there because he was taking basically a class on how to be a hospital chaplain with a bunch of gentlemen from different denominations, and they were not all Catholic, but he struck up a friendship with a Lutheran pastor who was also training for the hospital chaplaincy, and they remained friends to this day. And this pastor is actually sent him an email right before the conclave, wishing him the best and offering his prayers. And then Cardinal Bob wrote back and thanked him and appreciated his prayers. And of course, the next thing he knew, he came out as Pope Leo the 14th. This pastor this last Sunday preached his last sermon as a Lutheran pastor because it was his retirement. He's the same age as the Pope. He's 69. He's retiring. This is the time most people retire. And Cardinal Bob just started a whole new career.
Yes, he did.
And it's interesting that the Lutheran pastor, whose church, by the way, is in West St. Paul, where I grew up. In fact, I have spoken at that church and played my guitar and sung at that church back when I was in high school. This Lutheran pastor said, it makes all the sense in the world that a pope chooses a new name because he becomes a new person. His old life it doesn't matter anymore. He's this new person. That's a great insight because this guy knew him as that old person. Now he realizes he's a different guy now that he's the Pope. Yeah. And the Holy Father. That's a wonderful insight from an outsider. And my point is that Augustinian friar that you referred to earlier, Christopher, who under Pope Leo the 10th caused such magnificent problems for the church and for the whole history of the world.
Yes.
Who brought this horrible division to Christendom.
The political history of the world as well.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. And the philosophical history of the world. I mean, Chesterton says it was the worst event in all of history, was the Protestant Reformation.
Yep.
We now have another Augustinian friar as our Pope. And maybe he's the one who can pave the way to the reunion of Christendom, and that's got to be our prayer. That's got to be our prayer. He's God's man, and maybe he can reach out and start to bring some reconciliation. It's all, and that was the theme. You got this from all the other cardinals who were interviewed after the conclave. It was about unity. They all said it's not like the movie. It was all about unity. And let's pray that this man, this new Holy Father of ours, brings unity. Yeah. Let's do that. The other thing I was going to say is not important. Christopher, what was your question?
Was it known at the time of the conclave that Leo the 13th had a child?
What conclave?
At the conclave at which Leo was elected, Leo the 13th.
I would imagine, I would imagine that some knew it. It's obviously one of those quiet things. Probably it might not have been widely known. Who knows? I don't know.
Yeah.
But obviously people knew it. Yeah.
I think that's a wonderful detail. And I mean, I'm not encouraging clerics to father illegitimate children.
No, I don't think they should be encouraged.
No, but it is a human thing. And I mean, I gather he probably looked after him or saw that he was looked after.
Yeah.
The other thing about the St. Michael prayer is I'm trying to start a movement to change the English translation because it ends badly in English. Do you agree with me, William? In the Latin, it ends "en infernum detrude" and drive them into hell. And so it's a very forceful ending. And it would be very easy to render an English translation to finish that way. You would have to add a verb. So here's how it would go. And by the divine power, bind Satan. So you have to add a verb, bind Satan and all the evil spirits who prowl about the world seeking the ruin of souls and drive them into hell. Isn't that a better ending?
It's true to the spirit of the Latin. It doesn't sound good in English.
Precisely.
It doesn't sound good.
What?
Yeah, I would go with William on this
Yeah.
one. Doesn't sound good.
It's kind of clunky. You have to work on that a little bit. If you were one of my Latin students, I would praise you and give you a B+.
Wait, well, how could? So, are we in agreement that the way it ends now is it ends as a downer?
Sure, because you don't have that day true day.
Right.
You don't have that punch, but it's English. English is just this going to rock your world, but it's a different language.
This brings up
it has strengths that Latin doesn't have. Latin has strengths. I just
okay, but
this reminds me. Speaking of popes, when the Pope asked Jerome to translate Scripture, there were a series of translations and a series of moments, but he was actually reluctant to translate the whole of Scripture, especially the Psalter. And the reason that there was, contrary to kind of Father Lovasic style history of Catholicism, the Douay Rheims did kind of spring forth in the early 5th century. It was a really piecemeal creation of Scripture, and the Psalter took a long time. And the reason was St. Jerome was very reluctant to mess around with the received translations that people knew, even though he knew it really didn't resemble the strength of the original. So I don't know, Chris. I agree with the superiority of the Latin over the English. It's just got more power at the end. I completely agree with that. But that's just an argument to restore Latin in the church.
Yeah, because
I was just on the Camino, and there was a certain moment where we were at a pilgrim mass, and it was so sad in a way. This priest was speaking in 9 or 10 different languages. In all of them, he was trying to explain, but the church is still one. And I couldn't stop thinking of the Tower of Babel, and I just, this would be so simple. Most of the people in this church probably know enough Latin that we would be unified behind one Latin. And quite frankly, I'm only speaking on the level of the Latin right now. I'm not talking about the particular liturgical form. But I agree with you. The English is a little bit weaker, but did you say prowl about the? What do you think? Do you think prowl or Rome?
Prowl is much better.
Yeah, I agree. I know some people who prefer Rome.
No,
I like prowl. Prowl's a baby.
Yeah, prowl's better.
I'm going to interrupt here.
I'll take a B+.
That's just like you with your
I will
heavy
take a
regulatory
B+
hand.
from Dr. Fahey. I'll take a B+ from Dr.
Yeah, be happy with that. So, William, you have opened up a door for yourself, so I'm going to call on you as being the next volunteer to go next, and this will give us
Sure. What do you want me to talk about? Popes? I like popes.
Yeah, popes. Go ahead.
They're a big mess, but the only thing worse would be not have a pope. I mean, look at the people who don't have a pope.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with that. Keep going.
Wow, I mean, what? In all charity, what is there to say except read history?
Yeah, keep going.
No, there's nothing more to say. I mean, I like popes. I like them all. But I have to say, I'll say this, Dale.
Yeah.
It was at Thomas More College. We have, before exams in the spring, all the senior defenses. I think you have something very similar in the Chesterton Academies. The seniors are very formal. They have to defend against a faculty panel. And as I was sort of going in for the senior defenses to sit on panels and so forth, the white smoke had already been released. Everyone knew that, but there hadn't been an announcement. And as I'm going into the steps of the library, a couple of students were on the steps, and one of them had a cell phone, and so said, "They're on the balcony. They're actually on the balcony, and they're going to make an announcement." So I thought, the seniors can wait. I want to see what's said. And so I was listening to the Latin from the cell phone, and all I could hear initially was when they were announcing which cardinal it was, Roberto. And I thought, they've done it.
Yeah.
They've done it. They've elected Cardinal Sarah. And because I couldn't hear the last name. And then they said, and he takes the name, Leo. And I went out, I thought it's got to be Cardinal Sarah. But even if it's not, this is just a happy day to hear that the chosen name was Leo. And I, of course, love Leo the 13th, all the reasons stated and more. Probably the best Latinist the church has ever had. I mean, he was extraordinary in his personal knowledge of Latin, and one of the few pontiffs who probably penned the bulk of the rhetorical bits in his encyclicals, and maybe even some of them entirely, or at least largely. I mean, his Latin was just really, really quite good. What's there not to like about? I mean, so far I haven't heard a single thing that doesn't make me love Leo more and more. But the fact that he chose Leo to me was just such a sign of a desire to unify within the Catholic Church. I mean, I think you've got to clean up your own house before you start worrying about grand ecumenical things. And my greatest fear, I don't know, this reflects bad on me, but I'll just be honest. My greatest fear on that moment on the balcony, they were going to say that he chose the name Francis. That would have been signaling something that, in my view, it would have been an unmitigated disaster. I agree with Chris. I think he's going to be in continuity with the heart of, the best of things of Pope Francis that Francis never got credit for. But Francis, history is going to, I think, have a very clear vision on the church under Francis and the wounds that I don't even think he realized how deeply he wounded the church and was a cause for disunion. And so I do think he's going to be I think the choice of Leo immediately signaled we have major problems in the world. We need to unify first, because if you go back and you look at the very first encyclical, and it's roughly this time. If I recall, Leo's first encyclical is issued just shortly after Easter, and it usually gets some kind of tan books name like "Against Modernism" or "Against the Modern World." It's even stronger than that. Against the modern world, against the evils of the modern world. But a lot of it is a careful rhetorical overture to the bishops to be mindful of what really sets them aside from all of the problems. And that's unity to the source, unity to the cause of what it means to be Catholic, unity to the Holy Father, which, I mean, my age, I'm not old like Dale and Joseph, so I really can't remember, most of my life, I can't remember a pope. The popes that I really remember, John Paul II, Benedict XVI, and then along comes Francis. So I'm sort of triply rocked, and if I weren't something of a historian, I would have been gravely rocked by the pontificate of Pope Francis. But I mean, you peel back, and history shows, we get along quite well not knowing what the popes are up to, what they're doing at every second, like we do now. And they're not always great. And there's a lot of internal division historically within the church that no one can remedy in the short term. It's only the kind of slow determination to stay unified. I'm at a college whose patron died for the sake of unity and in the hope of reconciling all Christians. But the centerpiece to that reconciliation and unity was one thing and one thing only. And it was the very thing that Thomas More, for the majority of his adult life, was not strong on, had very serious doubts. I think there's great evidence that More, for the majority of his life, was a conciliarist and believed that the authority of the church resided in the church and council, and was not high on the papacy. That was something that, through the agony of the early English schism, he came to realize: if you break from the cause and very source of our unity, you break everything. So I'm delighted. I thought we were supposed to also talk about popes we like, so I'm just going to throw out there Pius the Sixth.
Yeah.
I'm starting to learn about Pius the Sixth. What a fascinating pope. He's sort of up for election in 1774, elected in 1775, I think is when they finally elect him in February. So I agree with what Chris said about Leo's condemnation of Americanism. That's worth looking at carefully for what it actually says. But Pius VI is fascinating because he is so muscular in his condemnation of the French Revolution, the French Constitution, the French changes in their own government, the French treatment of the church. And yet he bucked what the English bishops wanted to happen, and he recognized the American Republic and the establishment of the See of Baltimore and the establishment of the Catholic Church in the explicitly Republican new state of the United States. So it's fascinating. At the very moment after the American Revolution, I mean, he's elected a couple months before Lexington and Concord. He observes the entirety of the American Revolution when the Bishop of Quebec is excommunicating John Carroll, and he goes against that. His judgment is no, that the Americans should have their own church. He reckoned the Papal States and the Holy See recognize the new republic, and yet he suffered and died imprisoned, banished from Rome during the French Revolution, condemning everything about it. Fascinating. I think there's an essay or a book on comparing the revolutions through the eyes of Pius VI.
Was it Pius VI or Pius VII who was kidnapped by Napoleon?
Seventh.
Well, both.
Yeah.
Pius VII is the one who sort of made to participate in the crowning of Napoleon, if I'm remembering that right. There's the famous painting where Pius gives the crown to Napoleon because Napoleon wants to have the show, but he doesn't want to actually accept the direct sanction, as if I'm better than Charlemagne, so I'm not going to receive from the Pope. I'm going to get the crown, and then I'm going to crown myself. So yeah, Pius VII, very much a prisoner, very much a victim of
for more than a year.
Napoleonic manipulation.
It's funny, neither of those causes have been open, given just the suffering that the two men.
I know. Yeah, they're kind of living martyrs. Yeah. Okay. Well, that's
there you
great
go.
stuff. That's great stuff, William. Thank you, Joseph. You're up.
Okay. Well, I am having once bitten, twice shy. I remember the situation about a week or two after Pope Francis was elected and the euphoria, everybody was talking about the new Pope. So I am going to sound a cautionary note. Basically, the future is the famous Protestant gospel song. I don't know what the future holds, but I know who holds the future. The future is in the presence of God. We don't know it. We know the past, which is why I'm pleased that the main focus of this evening has been on history, because it's from the past that we learn the lessons we need to know about the present, including the present pontiff. So I'm obviously also delighted to name Pope Leo, and also delighted he referenced Reverend Navarrum. I don't need to say anything else about Reverend Navarrum that hasn't already been said. Obviously, it was a very important influence on my own conversion. So
your son is Leo.
So my son is Leo, he's our Leo the Great, so he's named after Leo the Great and Leo the 13th equally. So yes, we have that personal family celebration to take into account. So obviously I have my hopes, but I really, hopes are imposters in this sense. I have, the only hope that really matters is hope in the Lord. Hoping in anything else is dangerous. My general view on the whole thing is that that we don't canonize anybody while they're still alive, for very good reasons. We don't even canonize great books until the authors are safely dead, right? So the point is that I don't like canonizing living people because we have no idea what they're going to do. They could turn funny, right? All of us could turn funny. So none of us are canonized, thanks be to God. Hopefully one day we'll be in the church triumphant, and that's all that really matters. I am going to watch, see, pray, and trust that the gates of hell will not prevail, because they never have. And the church has dealt with many, many bad popes, and thankfully many more good popes. I hope and pray that this is a good pope and an excellent pope, and ultimately, perhaps in God's good time, a canonized pope, but I have no idea. And I'm certainly not going to put too much. I'll say one thing, maybe just by way of all this talk these days, this obsession with building bridges and not walls. As Chris said, that the walls of the Vatican still stand. I think we can be pleased about that. And the only way you can get into the Vatican, because of the walls, is via that other wall known as the Swiss Guard and the various other security people. That everybody with any common sense knows that walls are necessary. I have a home. A home without walls would not be a home. It would not keep the critters out. It would not keep the weather out, and it would not keep burglars and intruders out. So definitions, words, right? What is the creed? It's delineating, defining. It's saying what a word means. It's not allowing a word to mean anything. A word's not a bridge to every other meaning. That's what the postmodernists believe. So we absolutely have to be sure that that we have walls. What is subsidiarity but a wall? It's saying we have to defend the family against the encroachments of big government. We have to defend local government against the encroachments of big government. We have to defend national sovereignty against the encroachment of globalism. These are walls, and these are healthy walls. These are walls that are necessary to actually protect and defend human life, the human family, human society, human freedom. So, the present pontiff has already talked about needing to build bridges and not walls, and that sort of language to me is meaningless unless you're going to define terms. But in defining a term, you're already building a wall. You're saying this is what a word means as opposed to what it doesn't mean. So, as for ecumenism, as for unity, then absolutely I believe in unity, and ecumenism should be eucomunism. And eucomunism is only possible if, as Chesterton says, we don't have a church that will move with the world, but a church that will move the world. I hope and pray that Pope Leo the 14th will be at the helm of a church that moves the world, so that everybody else will want to come in. That's the only ecumenism that really matters. That's about what I want to say.
Oh, that's fantastic, Joseph. Bravo, bravo. We seldom let you finish, Joseph. We usually go to you first so that we can just get get you out of the way. And you were the perfect finish tonight. That was an absolutely lovely conclusion to our reflections this evening, and I'm really grateful for everybody's contributions. I just want to say on behalf of Dan Kerr, who couldn't be with us tonight, he wanted us to give a shout out to another Pope Pius V, the Pope of not only the Council of Trent but of Lepanto. And so we will give him that appropriate shout. So we've mentioned, I think.
As we have a few minutes left, can I actually add on Pope Pius V, who's also, apart from being the Pope of Lepanto and the Holy League, the Pope that excommunicated Bloody Bess, and inspired there by the Jesuit mission to England and those wonderful Catholic martyrs we have to thank now. If he hadn't excommunicated Pope Bloody Bess, in other words, he hadn't actually declared that there's a wall between the heresy of the Anglican Church and the true Church, we would have in England a situation where no one really knew where the extent to which the Anglican service was valid or not. This was a pope that built necessary walls and inspired saints who are now in heaven. Thanks be to God for Pope Pius V.
Gave us what was today largely the Latin Mass, or what people call the Latin Mass. That's from Pius V, the current missal. Promulgated the Council of Trent, the works of Thomas Aquinas, and undertook a reform of the seminaries, aided by Charles Borromeo. Did an extraordinary amount in a relatively short reign.
Why was the Tridentine Mass made mandatory? Because of Luther and Anglicanism, there were all sorts of other people building bridges in all sorts of directions towards nonsense liturgically, and the church had to make sure that no, this is a bona fide Mass. It didn't ban if a Mass was over 100 years old, such as the Sarum Rite. That was also a bona fide Mass, right? So it wasn't banning traditional Masses of various different liturgical traditions. But what he was doing is saying that these various new-fangled bridges to heresy, such as the Lutheran service and the Anglican Mass or service, were illicit. He was building necessary walls to ensure the preservation of the integrity and unity of the church.
Yeah, go see him. He's in the right transept.
I was just going to say that. Go ahead, finish up, Christopher.
He's in the right transept of Maria Maggiore. By the way, a chapel that's been, I think, restored by Americans.
Well, it's the chapel of it's called the Sistine Chapel.
Yeah,
named after another Pope Sixtus. I guess that's Pope Sixtus the Fifth. There is no Pope Sixtus the Sixth. Everybody's a little bit worried that the new Pope would choose Sixtus the Sixth, but because that's close to the number of the Antichrist, but that didn't happen. But he is Pope Pius V, Saint Pope Pius V, buried right across from where Pope Francis is now buried. Right. Well, gentlemen, a wonderful.
Dale, do a commercial for your conference.
I will. Next month, the Troubadours will be all together in the flesh.
Not next month. This is still May.
You're right. In June is next month. We will have another regular Troubadours meeting here on the artificial world of the internet. And William Fahey will be the host that evening. And we have no idea what we're going to be talking about, only that William will be the host and be the MC. But the month after that, in July, we're all going down to the Big Easy, the city of New Orleans, and we're going to be marching along with the Saints as the Saints go marching in. And yes, the Troubadours will be all together. And Joseph and Christopher will be putting together a special presentation on Henry Wadsworth Longfellow's wonderful poem, Evangeline. Christopher will be giving us the history. Joseph will be giving us the poem itself. This is a piece of American literature and American history that has to be rediscovered. You are going to have a fantastic experience at the 44th annual Chesterton Conference in July. Please go to our website, chesterton.org, and sign up and get your friends to come. It's going to be the best conference ever. And so we will conclude this evening with great thanks. Love to our brother Dan and the thespian experience that he's having right now. And we'll join you all together next month as the Troubadours gather once again with a fascinating topic, almost as good as tonight's.
I think it's beard oil and man bags.
Well, we're going to talk about what it is. We're not going to have that discussion right now. Just hold off. It'll be later. Okay. This is it. God bless everybody.
Buonanotte.